The country's economy faced both opportunities and challenges. Inflation has been kept under control. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is expected to ease rates toward 4%, and capital raising on the Philippine Stock Exchange surged last year, despite the main index declining and net foreign selling topping 50 billion pesos. We'll examine implications for growth, investor confidence, and the sectors likely to thrive or struggle, as well as key policy trade-offs shaping 2026. Joining us today is Angelo Tanico, Chief Economist at Security Bank and former Assistant Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry. Angelo, thank you for joining us. Let's start with your outlook. Angelo, the administration says the economy will be back on track by Q1. In concrete, measurable terms, GDP growth, inflation, jobs, and investment. What must be true by the end of Q1 for the claim to be credible?
Thank you, Bea, for having me. So on the first quarter of this year, we expect the economic growth to improve from a disappointing performance in the second half of last year. We note that the third quarter GDP growth was a disappointing 4%. And we still expect the same type of pace in the fourth quarter of last year. We are looking at 4.2% as our estimate.
Okay.
But for the start of this year, we believe that there could be some sequential improvement in the economic growth on the back of a bigger budget that we expect to be signed into law in the first week of January, as well as inflation remaining subdued. The December inflation print, which will come out next week, we think will be lower than the November figure, and therefore suggesting that the inflationary environment will be still conducive and manageable, especially in the first quarter of 2026. Finally, the jobs market we think will continue to remain positive in terms of employment, despite some tick up in the unemployment rate towards 5% recently. But we note that usually the last quarter, that unemployment rate tends to go down. And first quarter, we think it will remain within the conducive levels also.
Okay. Executive Secretary Ralph Recto says that the Marcos administration has kept inflation under control in 2025, and the BSP is poised to continue easing policy rates, potentially bringing them closer to 4% by end of 2026. From an economist's perspective, how much of this stability is policy-driven versus temporary, and what risk does this rate trajectory pose to inflation growth and the peso?
Well, last year, the monetary policy has been accommodative in terms of supporting economic growth. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has cut the policy rate last year 5 times, 25 basis points each, or for a total of 125 basis points. And we believe that there is still room for further monetary easing at the start of the year. And that's partly because, as mentioned, inflation is within control. Also, there is still some need for monetary accommodation to underpin economic growth because we're coming from a lackluster performance in the last second half. Okay. And therefore, we expect that the central bank will continue to support economic growth through more monetary easing. And we believe that February could be another 25 basis point rate cut.
Okay. If growth underperforms or inflation resurfaces in 2026, which sectors do you think will thrive or be relatively insulated for 2026?
Well, since these are downside risks in terms of slower than expected growth and higher than expected inflation, then the household sector will likely be hit hard, and that will have a spillover effect on the economy as well, to the downside, because household consumption occupies 70% of the GDP of the economy. And we note that the third quarter, the household spend grew by only 4%, whereas the GDP growth also grew the same. So households consumption tend to mimic the GDP
Okay.
growth. So we think that that will be one of the hardest hit sectors in terms of the impact of such a downside risk to both the growth trajectory and also in terms of higher than expected inflation.
How about the other sectors like the agriculture and the BPOs? Are they going to be insulated, or are they going to be affected more?
Well, definitely they will also be impacted, but in terms of the agriculture sector, uh, it's also one of the underperforming sectors in the country, and that has been the case for several years already. And even though its GDP contribution is major, that is around close to 10%, but over the years, the share of agriculture to GDP has been eroded by its low productivity. And that's why we think that if inflation resurfaces this year, then this will also be a negative effect on the agriculture sector. As regards BPOs, not much unlike the agriculture sector because the BPO is relying heavily on exports. That is on the demand for their services coming from their foreign or offshore clients, such as in the US or in Europe or in Australia. So even if the domestic economy is facing headwinds, for as long as there is ample demand from their clients abroad, then they will still be able to outperform the economic growth of the country.
If you can rank top three sectors that's most vulnerable, can you explain it to us?
Well, across the sectors that we are looking at in terms of the, well, agriculture is one. It's still highly vulnerable, especially that the country has been facing climate risk or inclement weather. And that is, again, another downside risk to our growth outlook for this year. As we have seen over the past 2 years, especially back in 2024, when we had both an El Nino and La Nina phenomenon, so that crippled the agricultural performance. Also, you can look at in the case of the manufacturing sector.
Yes.
The manufacturing sector has been facing headwinds partly coming from abroad. Note that the manufacturing sector, a large chunk of it, in terms of its exports, would come from electronics. And electronics sector is facing, headwinds from abroad in terms of high tariffs. The good thing, however, with our current electronics sector performance on its exports is that it has outperformed because I believe that it is still exempted from the tariffs in the US. That were raised recently last August, and therefore they have grown double digit. And that led the Electronics Association, SAPI, to revise upward their growth outlook for the sector last year from zero growth to double digit growth.
Double digit. Okay. Surveys place President Marcos at a -3 net satisfaction rating. At the same time, businesses are concerned about the political noise, the flood that just happened, and the flood scandals. How are these political and government issues affecting the business confidence of our investors?
Well, clearly, it has dampened the confidence of investors. That is clear in the latest business expectation survey results of the central bank, showing that business optimism waned for the fourth quarter and even for this year. More so, we have seen the stock market performance. It languished last year. It was the worst performer in the Asia-Pacific region. Asia-Pacific stock markets grew double digits. We fell by 7% last year. And that's partly because of the dampened investor sentiment resulting from the corruption or alleged corruption embroiled in the flood control projects. So there is a need, I think, for investor confidence to improve, and that would necessitate, I believe, some reforms in our political institutions and governance rules and regulations. So I think we are on track to meet this, as the market has priced in already the negative effect coming from this governance issue last year.
The Philippine Stock Exchange recorded a 75% surge in capital raised in 2025, including IPOs like Topline Business Development Corporation and Maynilad Water Services. Even as PSE main index declined to 7.29% from last year to year end. What explains this divergence, and how sustainable is investor confidence given the political inflation and the governance risks that we're facing right now?
Well, as mentioned, so the governance issue has weighed on investor sentiment, which in turn translated into a negative performance in our Philippine stock market.
Okay.
However, there was ample capital raising,
Yes.
particularly coming from follow-on offerings, those listed companies raising more capital through the stock market. And also, you have increased turnover or trading volume activity. And that is partly because you also have a doubling of net foreign selling last year compared to the prior year. So that, of course, explains why, on one hand, you have a poor performance on the stock market last year, and on the other hand, you have ample capital raising, suggesting that there is still positive fundamentals coming from the listed companies, and that is showcased by better earnings. In the third quarter, we have seen that in their earnings results compared to the first half of the year. And for this year, we believe that earnings will continue to grow, and we think better compared to last year. And that is partly because companies have been able to still tap capital markets and also access financing for their CapEx needs in order for them to continue to invest and invest more if they have recovered their confidence coming from this governance issue, and be able to translate into much better earnings moving forward.
Yes. How much of the Philippines' current economic strain is attributable to the global conditions, and how much of it is the result of the domestic policy choices over the past year? Is your thoughts?
Well, looking at 2025 as a whole, both Philippines and global, there is a discrepancy. On one hand, global equity markets rose for a third straight year. The U.S. stock market gained by double digits. Similarly, we also see this in Europe and also in the Asia-Pacific markets, but not in the Philippines.
Okay.
And this is despite the higher tariffs imposed by the U.S. starting in April of last year. So this suggests that the market recovery globally was swift, and also it was underpinned by technological advances such as artificial intelligence. So no wonder tech stocks like in the US performed much better again last year. And the Philippines, of course, is not that highly intensive on the tech space. We don't see much of tech stocks here. And that also explains why we were not able to join the tech bandwagon last year. And we think that over the medium term or even long term, this would be the case, that the tech sector will continue to dominate and will also be able to help support earnings of companies. So that said, I think that there is some hope for the market to rebound this year, and also for the economy to recover, albeit we think gradually, because we still face headwinds, not just globally, but also domestically.
Yes. What would be the clear signal in 2026 that is that the economy is no longer temporarily off track, in your own opinion?
Well, I think that the budget signing will be a good start. And then another would be the continuation of economic reforms. It was mentioned earlier, about the need to amend bank secrecy law. And I think there are also more than 10 other priority bills that were passed by the House and for recommendation and passage into law soon. So I think that the government is on track to push for these reform measures in order to help confidence recover and also be able to support the still positive macro fundamentals that we are seeing. That is in terms of growth recovery economically, also inflation remaining manageable, and interest rates still on a decline. And all three bode well for the economy and the markets as a whole here in the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Angelo Taninco, Chief Economist at Security Bank.